Welcome, everyone, to the Leading Together podcast, Insights for Delaware's Tomorrow. In each episode, we sit down with the top minds and leaders from across the nation and right here in Delaware. They share their perspectives that help advance FSE's mission, which is to build capacity, raise awareness, and elevate school board leadership across our communities. I'm your host, Julia Keleher. I'm the Executive Director of First Aid Educate, and thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Latoya Harris. She's a nonprofit founder and a statewide supervisor whose life's work has centered on helping families rebuild, heal, and thrive. She currently serves as the statewide supervisor for Wraparound Delaware, which is a fabulous program if you haven't heard of it. It helps parents reunite with their children and provides critical support for families navigating complex challenges. Latoya is also the founder of Cornerstone Community Center, which, if you haven't heard of this, they provide services for seniors, youth, and families. But her background ranges from education to counseling, but the goal is to have older people age with dignity. A lifelong learner, she has a master's in healthcare administration and is now getting her doctorate in counseling. So we're so happy to have Latoya here today. She did run for Woodbridge School Board, so we know that school boards are an issue that's near and dear to her heart. And one of her beliefs, which I think resonates with all of us, is that children need to be seen, supported, and understood, and the importance of trauma, poverty, and family instability on education. Latoya, thank you for your life's work, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys for having me. Such an honor.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation. You have a really interesting background, right?
Yeah.
In finance, work, social work, education, counseling, right? Healthcare administration. But all of that is about helping others.
Correct.
And I just love to share, if you could share a little bit about the why and, how is what led you to this and why do you enjoy it so much?
Well, I started out in college. I went to school. I got my bachelor's in science because I wanted to be a doctor, right? I wanted to help people. That was always my life's mission, is how can I help people? And I wanted to be able to serve people. So I wanted to be a physician. So that's what I went to school for. Took the MCAT, was on my way to med school. And I figured out that, that's kind of not really what I want to do. So I took a break from the medicine field and decided that I would do some financial support. So I was an licensed insurance agent. So I did that for a little bit. I did some loan work, still helping people, like you said, still serving people, trying to help people become stable. And I just wasn't fully fulfilled. So I found myself working for the state of Delaware in social work. And that is where I kind of found love and passion in helping people create a better life, well-being. And from that kind of just spiraled into this really passion for serving our community and seeing our people thrive, whether that be the young, the old, wherever they are on that spectrum, just seeing them thrive.
I think that's really admirable. I think it's a life of service, and I think what strikes me is my background in education is just we're all here to help other people. We've had our own experiences, but what can we do to help the person who's also has their own life path, to have them realize their potential? Can you talk a little bit about your upbringing and your background? You were raised by your grandparents, I believe, right?
True, correct. So I was raised by my grandparents. My mother passed when I was 9. So this is kind of I always use it when I do grief counseling and support groups. That's my grief story. My mother passed when I was 9. My father struggles with addiction. So I was raised by my grandparents who remain very active still in my life. They are my go-to people. So that in itself allowed me to have a kind of connection with a lot of people in different areas. So I can connect with people on that level of losing a parent, not just in death, but also losing a parent to addiction, because I have both. I struggle with both. And then also it also kind of developed my love for the senior population, because my grandparents now, they're elderly, and I kind of care for them as well. So I have a strong love for caring for our elderly population and making sure that they are given what they need, because they have given so much to our society. So making sure that they too are stable. And then of course, giving back to other kids who struggle with the same things that I have struggled
Mm-hmm.
with growing up. Me and my sister, we went through some things, but life has been very great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
very blessed. So we actually are on the more positive spectrum of that. So my line of work really does show that there can be some positive out of some not so good situations.
For sure. And I guess you see a lot of it with the wraparound work, right?
Definitely,
What's
definitely.
that like? I mean, I'm not sure if maybe we'll tell the audience a little bit about what the program is and how it helps Delawareans.
Sure, yeah. So Wraparound Delaware, we are a nonprofit organization, and we really we work with the parents. That's the special thing about Wraparound because there are a lot of services out there for the kids, but we work with the parents. So these are parents that are struggling with addiction, mental health, physical health, and some of them just a lack of resources. So we really assist the parents with kind of finding that stable footing, helping them get therapy, whether it be mental health, whether it be substance abuse counseling. We help them get stable into a point where they can raise their kids because most of the families that we serve, their children have been removed from them, so they're in foster care of
Mm-hmm.
some sort, or they're with family, and so we're trying to really help these parents find stability because firsthand I know how traumatizing it is to not have a parent in your life, right?
Sure.
So I lead with that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Even when leading with parents, like this is how your kid feels,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what you can do to kind of help that. and
Mm-hmm.
and we work with the parents very closely, meeting with them on a weekly basis, kind of really helping them find employment, find housing, therapists, counselors, substance abuse, treatment if they need to go into treatment. We do all of that, really servicing them until they finally can call themselves stable and they can regain custody of their kids, and now they can care for their kids in a positive way.
There's so many things about your work that I love and that I really admire. Um, it's not often that everyone who goes through traumatic experiences as a young person has the opportunity to seek out others who are experiencing similar trauma and be in a place to really support them. And I think that's amazing that you're able to get to a place where you can help someone else, and then also that you can empathize and be supportive in such a meaningful way.
Definitely, it's the most fulfilling. I've been with Wraparound now for 6 years. It really, honestly, is the most fulfilling. I love my job. I love what I do. I love the way in which we connect with people and we work with families. We work with them from their strengths because just because I'm a drug dealer doesn't mean that I'm not strong at something else. It doesn't mean that
Hmm.
I can't transfer those skills and become a productive citizen. And we work with our families from that lens, and I love that.
Hmm. Also, too, there's always an intergenerational component of some of the things that affect, I guess, society as a whole, I would say, or progress as a whole in a society. So intergenerational system involvement with the carceral setting, difficulty, with academic achievement. So these kinds of things, you're breaking that really. The work you're doing is really intervening so that the child has an opportunity to find a different path and be supported.
Exactly. It's really about educating, not just educating the parents because like you said, they come from a line of sometimes trauma, and educating them that your trauma doesn't have to define you. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
continue to live in that trauma. But then we're
Mm-hmm.
also helping them to, kind of push that onto their kids that just because I lived this way doesn't mean you have to. There's better, there's more, and I want to see that
Yeah.
for you. And we kind
Yeah.
of we work in all of those spaces.
That's fabulous. It's admirable. And I think anything we can do at First Aid Educate to support that work and to amplify it and to have school districts really it's a statewide program, right? But how school districts can benefit from of this, family reunification and strengths-based intervention that you're doing with as part of wraparound. So I think it would benefit children.
It definitely will benefit children because we see it when kids come into the classroom. They carry all of that.
Hmm.
Just because I'm in foster care and yes, I'm in a good home right now, it doesn't mean that I'm not still worried about my mom who's strung out. Like, will she?
Right.
So kids carry that into the classroom. I
Hmm. Hmm.
think it's important that we see that.
So I did want to. I mentioned at the with the intro that you decided to run for school board, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what motivated that decision. Right now, First Aid Educate is actively recruiting people to run. We think it's a super important role. We think it's critical to moving Delaware. Having fully trained, well-versed, competent board members is critical to Delaware becoming one of the best school systems in the nation. And so we're recruiting candidates. We want Delaware's best and brightest. But what led you to run?
I really, I don't know. I can't really answer it. I just know that I have a passion for education. Like I'm obviously I'm a lifelong learner. I really label myself as that. So I have a passion for education, and I feel like our kids deserve the absolute best when they come into the classroom. And I think I just wanted to bring that into the school board. I wanted to bring the connection with the community, what we see, what we know is going on in our community, but how can we merge that with the classroom so that we can make the two work kind of together versus against each other. So I really came in with that passion of wanting to see how I can unify the two.
I think that's super important. And I think, there's that one thing that's great about a board is that it's a collection of individuals and everybody brings their own strength, right? And so I think it's an important perspective. The other perspective that I think is important is the one you mentioned about being a lifelong learner, right? What does that mean to you, or how have you seen that in your life?
What it means to me, every situation is a learning opportunity. So I never go into anything thinking, oh, I know it all, because honestly, I don't. So every situation I'm going in with a lens of what can I learn? Not so much as what can I bring, because I know what I'm going to bring. I know what I can offer, but I'm not going in with that. I'm going in with what can I learn? What can I take from this space that will better me? And then in turn will better my community and the people that I serve. So lifelong learner, every situation, every opportunity is a learning opportunity, and it should be used that way.
Yeah. Well, and one just final question about this. I mean, I share the perspective because my background, I've studied a bunch of different things. To me, it allows for perspective, because when you're trained in one discipline, you tend to look at, any situation and object through that lens. But when you've been trained in multiple disciplines, you have the capacity to look at that same concept or that same construct from different perspectives.
Exactly.
Has that been true for you?
Exactly. It definitely is, because I can pull from every situation I've been in, everything that I've done, because I've done a few different things, but I can pull from all of them, and it can kind of help me kind of see, you know what, I can't look at this. This isn't textbook, right? So I didn't learn this in the classroom. I learned a lot of stuff in the classroom because obviously I'm still in school, but I didn't learn this in the classroom. So I can pull from all of those experiences to kind of help, find what works in this situation, what fits this situation. So that's how it works.
That brings us to the second element that I really wanted to highlight in the show for our audience, is that, you're working with families that are in probably one of the most difficult moments of their lives. And I think that you bring this unique capacity to say, well, I may know what works, but what works in situation A might not work in situation B. How did you learn how to do that?
I can't say. I don't know. I don't know how I learned, or how one would learn to do that. Honestly, I really think it is when you come in and you have a passion just to help people and to serve people. I always say, and as a supervisor, I always say, I can teach you the job. I can teach you exactly what to do and how to do it, but I can't teach you passion. I can't give you the passion for the work that we do. So when you come in with passion, and sometimes your passion and your empathy, your compassion for people, that's what's going to lead you. That's what's going to direct you into making the choices that best fit that family.
Yep. I think that's true. And knowing really, and starting from the space of, it's not one size fits all, everybody needs some, but it's everybody needs something different, but everybody also needs a person who genuinely cares.
Exactly. That's it. That's it.
So working with trauma is not easy. I mean, it's a difficult, even though I think the word is, forgive me, is slightly overused today. But when we're talking about significant life traumas and adverse events that have created trauma, you're an expert in this area from your lived experience and what you've studied and what you've done. How can we help teachers who I think sometimes feel that they have to know things that might be outside of what they went to school for, right? An educator doesn't go to school to learn how to deal with trauma. They learn how to build a lesson plan, how to differentiate, how to, there's a lot of things, technical expertise that they have. Sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming to have to deal with and not that they're not accepting of it. I mean, I think they do want to help, but where do you start?
I think it's important that educators, and not just educators, but all people, but that they learn that the broader aspect of trauma, because I
Mhm.
really do think it is an overused term. I agree with you in that we use it,
Mhm.
everything is trauma, but honestly, everyone thinks of trauma as being the absolute worst thing that could happen to
Mhm.
you, right? Obviously, more things are like death, having a parent that's on
Mhm.
drugs, that
Mhm.
being raised by grandparents or in foster care system. They look at those as trauma. Sometimes what my trauma isn't always your trauma, right? So
Mhm.
because my trauma isn't your trauma, I can't relate to it. So it's helping teachers to see that you still have traumatic experiences, things that have shaped your life. So helping them see
Mhm.
that just because your trauma, what was traumatic to you, doesn't look like what's traumatic to them,
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it doesn't hold the same weight, right? It holds
Mhm.
the same weight. And I need you to just come in with that still compassion of, well, just because it's
Mhm.
not just because it looks different doesn't mean that it
Right.
doesn't feel the same, because it does.
Right. So let me see. I say back what I think I hear you saying, which I think is a pretty powerful concept. No matter what has happened to us as humans, if we've had a traumatic experience for us, then we have the capacity to understand someone else's feeling about their trauma, even if we live in a different context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
So really the teacher's job really can just be to then recognize and see and maybe refer out to the specialist who knows what to do with
I
the
think
actual trauma.
I think that's the best thing, because we do, and I know, just because my husband's an educator, so he's a
Mhm.
teacher. He teaches science at the middle school. So he struggled, and he struggled really bigly with, I'm not a mental health professional. He was like, you
Mhm.
are. He's like, I don't know how, I don't know what to do with these kids. They're making me take these
Right.
classes on mental health, and he was like, but now I
Uh,
got to teach them. But then I also got to know what's the
right.
problem. And I think it's really just helping teachers understand that, when you see it, say something, do something. Like, we're
Mhm.
not asking you to treat them. We're not asking
Right.
you to stop the whole class. But if you see that there's a problem, refer them out, send them out to a
Yep.
counselor who can then give them the correct services. We just
Mhm.
want you to be able to identify it.
Yep.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate too, because I do think that teachers a lot of times feel they're responsible for every aspect today, and knowing that there are supports out there. And really, my job is if I see something in the classroom, okay, I'm not, this is where I help connect that child to some other support. So,
Exactly.
how can boards help? What kinds of support system could boards put in terms of policy or bringing resources to a school so that when the teacher does find this in the classroom, they have a place to actually send them?
I think boards and school districts can assist teachers, because teachers are overworked. Honestly, they really are, with all of the struggles and the challenges that they have to deal with on the front end. I think they can provide more spaces for the kids to um, have time out,
Mhm.
and not time out being a bad thing, right? Because oh,
Mhm.
you're going to ISS. Not having time out be a bad thing, but time
Mhm.
out where kids can just kind of be like, you know what, I'm having a really crappy day, I can't
Mhm.
handle this, and there's no reason for me to sit in the classroom and give this
Mhm.
teacher my crap, when
Mhm.
I just need to talk to somebody. I just need space where I can't talk at home, where I can have. So
Mhm.
if school boards and school districts can work together to figure out how they can create safe
Mhm.
space, because school is
Mhm.
supposed to be a safe place. So
Mhm.
not just safety as in from violence, but safety in my mental capacity. Like,
Mhm.
can I come to school and just can I have a bad day and somebody care about me?
Mhm.
And I think school boards
Yeah.
and school districts really can work to create that safe space. I think that would start to help in the classroom, but it'll help students in the long run as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And is there a space where educators and social workers work together?
I think that there should be a space where educators and social workers work together.
Mhm.
Because honestly, if the teacher sees it, the social worker is going to be your first line. Like,
Mhm.
besides going to a computer, besides or the principal, besides writing a referral or whatever, let me just call the social worker. Let me see if they just can come and take you and give you some.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like detentions would go down,
mhm,
ISS, students in ISS would go down, behavioral infractions would go down. I really think
mhm,
that would all kind of push towards a more positive school day.
mhm. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I was a guidance counselor for 4 years in Delaware, 3 years before that, and I think it's that phrase. It takes a village. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody's got something to contribute to making sure that the younger generation can make it. And today they're honestly faced with so many things because social media wasn't a thing when I was growing up. I
Right.
mean, harassed online is a whole other level of being,
Yeah.
kind of abused in a way. And I don't know that we're equipped to, we need more of us to be able to provide that safe space for kids because there's more negative stimuli, I think.
I think I like the term. I always like the term. It takes a village. I've always liked that, and I said I created villages, village for my kids. But
Mhm.
since coming into this nonprofit space and working with doing my work with Cornerstone, we have a slogan, and it goes "Community Matters," and
Mhm.
we think just the community that that surrounds us. That's good, but community matters as in my community of people that I hang with. So my school, now once I enter the school doors, that becomes a community. And guess what?
Mhm.
That community matters too. So I need people in that community who I can
Mhm.
connect with, who can connect with me, and who can help
Mhm.
create a safe space in that community. So
Mhm.
creating small pockets of communities, I think that matters.
Yep. It's interesting that you say that too because your work is statewide, but the success statewide kind of depends on these pockets of communities all across the state.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that in the state of Delaware, I'm in Sussex County. So
Mhm.
what we see in Sussex County is a trickle down effect, right? So we don't have a lot of resources or we get resources really late.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we're always challenged with being on the slower end. They call us slower. So we're always challenged with being on the slower end of the receiving of
Mhm.
these necessary resources that we have. So um it's really up to us to create communities that work for us and that work in the systems in which we have. So that's kind of what Cornerstone does. We go in
Mhm.
different schools, boys and girls clubs. We work to create communities,
Mhm.
different senior developments, creating communities right there so that these people have someone that they can rely on. Because
Mhm.
smaller communities will then come together and they'll make a whole bigger community
Yeah.
of people and it looks better. It works better.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So if boards wanted to do community engagement, what does it look like when a board does outreach to the community? And you make an excellent point. Every community is different. There's 16 districts in Delaware.
Yep.
Those are unique communities. So in no way are we trying to, neither you nor I, say this is what everybody should do. But I think there probably are some principles around how boards, wherever they are, can authentically engage their community.
I think my what I was feeling when I ran for school board, I think every school board should have a person or two that is really community oriented, right? That is
Hmm.
really community connected. Um because that brings in, well, what is going on into the community. That gives you, they have a perspective, they have a scope on what actually is happening in the communities
Hmm.
around them, and in the pockets where their district may have more challenges than others.
Hmm.
So they come in and they bring into this community what actually will work. How can we engage with the community? How can we get out there in these schools? Because what works, just throwing it out there, what works in the town of Bridgeville does not work in Coverdale community.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
because they are Bridgeville, they're Woodbridge district, but they are two completely different
Hmm.
communities. So
Hmm.
how can we merge the two? We having someone that can really connect. What works in inner city Wilmington isn't going to work in Newcastle County, right? So we have to have. I think it's really important that school boards have members that are connected to the community in a way that they provide a lens. They're
Hmm.
that looking glass into that community, and then they can engage. Then engagement
Right,
becomes easy. Engagement becomes
right.
easy.
Yeah, I think it's a neat idea. It's kind of like an ombudsman who, has that one role. It's also very important, and I don't know if it works entirely for this, but maybe there are some other strategies, because some families I think don't feel seen or don't feel um, able or invited
Right.
to engage.
Yeah.
And I think that training, support, and an actual invitation, making it less scary. Those are things where you could help people who want to engage, but aren't sure how to do that.
Yeah, I think that that's important. I think another with our current population of the state, and I'm not 100% familiar with what Wilmington or Newcastle County looks like, but here in Sussex we have a large population of Haitian, Creole, and Hispanic.
Hmm.
So being invited, I'm not heard. I can't even understand what these people are talking about. Because,
Right, right.
well, there's a language barrier.
Yep.
So that all plays a great mix in it. So I think it's having those different, well, oh, that's someone that actually speaks my language, so I kind of can understand. Because when you go to a school board meeting, if you're, of Hispanic descent, you speak, Spanish, I don't know what they're talking about. They're
Hmm.
saying a lot of stuff, but I don't know what exactly they're
Right.
saying, how that relates to me. And so I
Hmm.
think having, I don't know if putting interpreters in place. I don't know
Hmm.
what the fix would be, but finding a way that we can communicate with all people where we break the barriers so we
Yeah.
don't make it, as hard. Yeah, I think
Yep.
that's important.
Yeah, I would agree. Another interesting aspect of this that has come up. I did an interview with Ronnie Balthasar, and he mentioned that
Mm.
families who come from other countries have education systems that look very different than the public education system in America. So not only do you not know what they're saying, you don't really understand how this works because it doesn't look like or work like the one you just left.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, we're all coming with our own cultural backgrounds and cultural
Hmm.
perspectives, and that that can be a lot. And I get
Hmm.
it. It sounds like we're creating a lot for school boards to do, but I mean, honestly, it's not really a lot if you're just strategic in the way in which you
Hmm.
form the school board. If you're strategic in the way the school board is set up, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you have
Hmm.
one person that kind of has that insight, they bring that to the board. One person
Right.
that has a different insight, they bring that to the board. And once
Hmm.
we're the board and we can collectively get together and decide, okay, this might work. Let's try it. It
Yeah.
seems like a lot, but I don't think it has to be. I don't think it has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I agree. So, one final question to close. This has been such a wonderful conversation in terms of the insights, but just a pleasure to chat with you. Um, we're recruiting, as I mentioned, board members to run for the May election.
Okay.
What advice do you have? What's the call to the community? Why is stepping up to serve an important thing to do?
I think it's important just for the reasons we just discussed. We need your perspective, right? We need to know exactly what is going on in your communities. Your voice matters. So when we say community matters, that your voice within that community matters, and we want to bring it to the table. So I think it's really important for people who are really interested, get out there. If you feel like you're not being heard, get out there, push to
Hmm.
be heard, because your voice matters. We need to know, we need to hear exactly what it is that you can bring to
Hmm.
the table and how we can create a better community for our children.
Hmm. Well, Latoya, what an absolute pleasure. I took so much from this conversation. Working from someone's strengths, I think the ability to empathize as a human. We don't have to have had the same experiences, but I can understand feelings because they're human.
Okay.
That empathy and making schools a safe space. I think that's a great idea for boards to consider, as well as the social work aspect that you mentioned is also great. But really, this community matters and everyone's voice and finding a way. I mean, just, fantastic perspective. What a wonderful life's work. I wish you continued success in all that you do. Thank you for all the families that you serve.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. We have tons of resources on our Knowledge Hub related to mental health and school safety. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining us.